This week, we're talking about Future Gohan, and more specifically, what if he came back to the present? Does that make sense? Instead
Yeah.
of Trunks during the Android saga. So, this is interesting. And this topic is based on the new Super Dragon Ball Heroes episode, because Future Gohan is the one that survived the androids in this new episode. So I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we just take that idea and then change it to be what would happen if he came back instead of Trunks? What if he was the survivor?
In the less crazy version of the show.
Yeah. Because, to be honest, that would change a hell of a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because we've talked about Trunks in that arc before, and he's such a prominent figure in that arc to start,
Yeah.
and then he just becomes such a nothing towards the end of the Cell arc, and it's such a shame.
Yeah.
He literally just gets bodied at the end, literally bodied.
Yeah. Because, like, this version of Trunks that does appear in the Cell arc is my favorite Trunks, I guess. Like, Trunks is one of my favorite characters, and loved him in the Cell arc, and loved him even more in the Goku Black arc. I just think he's great. But the Cell arc, especially, he was just so cool. Especially coming out of the hyperbolic time chamber with the long pink hair. Incredible stuff. But that wouldn't happen. We wouldn't have a future Trunks character at all in the show, because it would have been replaced by Gohan with one arm. And yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind that would change the most for me is, would Kid Gohan then still be the one to be like the main, like the one who defeats Cell?
I think the interesting thing to me is they don't really talk much about one arm Gohan's potential.
Hmm.
Actually, also
Yeah.
make a side note. One arm Gohan is one of my favorite characters. So it's funny if your future character is one of your favorite characters.
Hmm.
One of my favorite characters is this future character.
Yeah.
So either way, we win. But
Even though that Gohan has
yeah,
hardly actually done anything, if you think about it in the show.
he's cool. Yeah, but he's just such a cool character. Like
Hmm.
the way they designed him and everything. I just think
Hmm.
I very much like him.
Hmm.
Um,
Should we
but
start from the start, I guess,
yeah,
and go
I
through
think
the story in order?
yeah, I think it's I think the important thing is to make sure that people know what happened to One Arm Gohan.
Yeah.
Is the most important thing
Mhm.
is because he didn't spend a lot of time around, really, did
Hmm.
he? His most important factor really is he's responsible for Trunks' transformation.
Yeah.
Really,
Hmm.
he trained Trunks back in the future. He was basically his Mr. Piccolo.
Yeah.
Uh, um, protected Trunks from the androids.
Mhm.
Um, but when Trunks wanted to help fight the androids with Gohan, Gohan knocked him out
Mhm.
and went to fight him one on one. And I would say Gohan at the time of his death was equivalent to one of the androids
Ooh, potentially. Yeah, I could.
because he was
Yeah.
fighting. He went to fight them and he attacked 18, and I would say he was holding his own.
Hmm.
But then, because we reacted to the video, now he was holding his own. But the second the two of them paired up,
Mm.
and because they fight so well in sync,
Mm.
it was over for Gohan
Yeah.
immediately. And I mean, we reacted to that video, and he was done for.
Yeah.
But I would say he was so strong that I would say he was. So he's a hell of a fighter
Hmm.
at the time of his death. So if he'd come to the future at that time, he was so much stronger than Super Saiyan Trunks if
Yeah.
it appeared to kill Mega Frieza. Like
Mm.
he would have dwarfed that. I would say that
Hmm.
Trunks. So we already would have had a stronger fight if it appeared. I would say.
Yeah. So let's start when Trunks appeared. So I think it would have stayed the same. Gohan would have appeared instead of Trunks. He would have just blasted Frieza away instantly. Pretty
Yeah.
similar, just without
Okay.
a sword. He would have spoke to Goku, which would have been interesting, and still gave him the heart medicine, so that he lived. instead of dying from heart disease or whatever. I think that bit would have stayed the same. And then this is when the story would have changed because, you know, the
Do you think they
whole.
would have been able to hide it?
What do you mean?
Well, it was easy for them to hide Trunks because they have no idea who he is. He looks nothing like him or anything like that.
Hmm.
Gohan, he obviously has a lot of resemblance and everything like that. Like, it would have probably been a
Yeah.
lot harder to hide.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, it didn't take long for Trunks to really introduce himself. To be
Yeah.
honest, I think Gohan, it kind of would have just been instant. I don't think they would have needed to hide who he was,
Yeah.
um, which is fine. But I think the main difference is a lot of the arc with Trunks was him kind of building a relationship with Vegeta, I guess. And that was it. Whereas Goku and Kid Gohan were kind of training together. That would have been interrupted because Future Gohan would now be here instead. So Vegeta would kind of be on his own, which is normal, I guess, but he wouldn't have had a training partner. And Goku and the two Gohans would have then been together.
Who? Yeah, I think that's the thing. Who would have trained with who? Would Goku have even focused on Kid Gohan?
I don't think he would have. Personally, I don't think so because he would have seen this new Gohan, he would have been told about the threat, and if you compare the two Gohans at that point, Future Gohan and Kid Gohan, obviously, even with one arm, Future Gohan is a lot stronger than Kid Gohan at the time. And because Gohan knows about the threat of the androids, I want to say that Goku and Future Gohan would have just went into the time chamber together, and
Yeah.
Kid Gohan would have been left out.
I mean, there's no reason he wouldn't have the same potential,
Yeah.
like innate potential. I don't
Mm.
see why he wouldn't.
Mhm.
So he would still have the same locked away. So he's already a stronger fighter. He already has the same innate potential.
Mhm.
So he's already got much better martial training because he's a better fighter.
Mhm.
It just makes more sense to refine a better fighter and bring out. It would be so much easier. It might even be possible to bring out Super Saiyan 2
Yeah. Maybe.
just by training.
Potentially. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, it's a lot of Super Saiyan is um, dealt through raw emotion, but
Mm.
you never know.
I mean, his emotion was there, I guess. His entire
Yeah.
family line had died. It's just him, Trunks, and Bulma, and that's it in his future.
Mhm.
So,
I
yeah.
mean, to be honest, he was already a Super Saiyan beforehand, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He might have reached 2 when he found dead Trunks.
Yeah. Maybe.
So he might have already even been a 2 before he came back to the to the past,
Mm.
so to speak.
It depends how we're playing this off. Does he go back before, like if we switch roles and Trunks dies instead? Or do we do it when they're all together and Gohan says, look, our best bet is to try and get some help. I'm going to go back before anything happens. Any more damage is happening, I guess. And he just jumps in then. The Trunks and Bulma kind of left by themselves. Or is it after Trunks dies to the androids that he goes back?
I think I would look at it as in you just trade places with them. I think that would be the
Yeah,
easiest way to look at it is you
fair
just
enough.
trade places.
Yeah.
I think fair is fair is someone has to go, and I
Hmm.
think Trunks would be the one, and that's why he would go.
Okay, well, in that case, I think we've got to say that he doesn't hit Super Saiyan 2 at that point because if he
Yeah,
did,
that'd
he
be too
probably
easy
would have wiped
because
out
then
the
he just
androids.
outsell basically.
Like, he would
He'd
have
be
wiped out the androids in his future and then he wouldn't have needed to go back anyway.
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think he would literally like Kid Gohan would be left by the wayside, but I
Mm.
think that would be to their detriment, very much so, because then Gohan wouldn't hang about afterwards.
Mm.
He would go back, like, because he goes back to his own future
Timeline.
Trunks, then goes back to his own timeline,
Yeah.
and then we have this massive gap of a missing hero.
Mm.
Like the end of Z, it's basically Goku says, "I'm not going to come back" when he dies.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not die
Yeah.
because you may have this better fighter, but let's say for some reason he did die, he would have to come back. He wouldn't have a choice because they wouldn't have a replacement.
I think the thing is, during the points where the androids were around and Cell was trying to hunt them down to absorb them, whereas Trunks was actively trying to kill them, I guess, whilst battling with Vegeta, where Vegeta wanted them to be absorbed, Gohan would have been a lot more ruthless because he was older. He was more battle ready, I guess, battle tuned. He had been
Yeah,
in more fights. Yeah, he would have been stronger, and also he wouldn't have had to deal with Vegeta bickering all the time. He would have just been like, no, and then just killed them. I think Gohan after.
I think he's a lot stronger than Vegeta.
Yeah,
Definitely.
of course.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have tried to hide it either, like Trunks was trying to do, just to not hurt Vegeta's pride. He would have been saying, look, I'm the strongest one here. We're taking these out now. And Gohan would have probably just killed both androids after a year in the hyperbolic time chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely, like, because in the end, Trunks did flex on Vegeta. He blasted him away to try and stop him. So he was perfectly capable of doing it. So Gohan would be able to do that no problem.
Yeah.
Because Gohan, I think Gohan would be, again, I think Gohan would be much stronger than Future Trunks. And so I think he'd be very easily able to do that. So I think he would literally tear 18 or 17 apart.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
100%.
I think at best you would get semi-perfect Cell. And if Vegeta can deal with semi-perfect Cell, this Gohan
definitely
could do it no problem.
Yeah. Or even, let's say for some reason, Cell does manage to still absorb both androids. He turns into perfect Cell. I think at this point, if Gohan still hasn't hit Super Saiyan 2 within the hyperbolic time chamber, the fight would still change. He would be the one probably jumping in first, like Goku wouldn't have went in and everyone else wouldn't have tried to take out Cell first. Like what plays out, Gohan would have been like, I'm the strongest one here, I'm just going to do it. Because, future Gohan, he wasn't scared of anything. He was constantly training, which is not, it's what a lot of Gohan fans want. A lot of Gohan fans want a constantly training Gohan, and this is that
version. It's a very dark Gohan, yeah.
Yeah. So he would have jumped in first, thinking he is the strongest, and he would have went toe to toe with Cell. And the fight would have been a lot different because maybe he wouldn't have hit that rage point to unleash Super Saiyan 2 because he isn't witnessing people die. He wouldn't have built up this relationship with Android 16 somewhat. So even if 16 did get crushed the same way, I don't think it would have really had the same effect on him.
I think he might have reached rage potentially a different way through anger rather than pain. Like if he managed to remember everything that's happened to reach this point, like he suffered a lot.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously everything that's happened in his past. And then he's still gotten to this point and he still failed by letting everybody get absorbed. And he knows that if this happens, he's let this happen. He's came all the way back. He came all the way past to prevent this. He's allowed this to happen still. He could still go because if he starts to lose against Perfect Cell, he's failed in everything he's done to come back to the past. And now he's going to allow what's happening in his timeline to happen here. Because he's allowed people to get absorbed. And so he's going to let it all happen all over again. And he's got people like Trunks who's died. Well, now his father's going to die all over again. So he could still hit the rage point. I don't say it would be unreasonable to happen. I think there would just have to be a particular trigger point in the story for that to happen, for him to realize that.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Typically in Dragon Ball, there's a speech or something like that, a mocking speech or something that triggers it.
I think I've got a way that they could have done it. Maybe the same thing happens where Gohan thinks he's defeated Cell by blowing him up or whatever, but that doesn't actually happen the first time round because Cell just comes back. So yeah, that the same point happens. They think Cell's gone because he's been blasted away, and then he appears from the sky. Does his death laser beam, but obviously since Trunks isn't there, instead it hits Piccolo, and Piccolo goes down. He's gone, and yeah, that is what triggers Gohan go all out potentially.
because he has to watch him die again.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Goku, I don't think would go down that easily. I
Hmm.
don't think it goes
No, he
like
wouldn't.
there's not a Trunks for it to go down.
And
No
there's
one else is
no,
going to have emotional impact for him. Like
yeah.
he's already lost Trunks. Trunks doesn't exist in this timeline. There's nobody else that has that risk, that
Hmm.
real emotional connection for him.
Because
I'd say Goku and Piccolo.
yeah, I was thinking Goku, but if that was to happen, then no one could teleport Cell to King Kai's planet, so Cell would have just self-destructed and blew up Earth.
Yeah.
So for the story to still kind of play out the same, it couldn't be Goku, and that leaves Piccolo. But also, if it is Piccolo, then that means that there's no Dragon Balls to bring anyone back. So it's
True.
like, who is the other option? And I just thought, what if he kills Baby Gohan, Teen Gohan? Because Teen Gohan's there, he's watching this whole fight, he's scared or whatever, he doesn't want to fight, like, is canon, technically, that
Oh
Gohan
yeah.
doesn't want to fight, he just hasn't been in the time chamber this time around, so he's even weaker. What if Cell comes back and goes pew, and, Teen Gohan goes down? Would that trigger Future Gohan to get angry?
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I would 100% see that happening because he literally sees his future disappearing. Technically,
Yeah.
it's a literal removal of his future. He's came to this timeline and watched like a literal kid's future disappear.
Yeah.
Basically, his
Because
innocence. He's watched his innocence die again.
mm,
Because he's just dark hardened. He's dead inside,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
This Gohan we've seen, like we said, he's this battle hardened thing. He's basically got nothing to live for.
They would have had
We
a lot of interactions in this version as well, like between
oh
Future Gohan and Kid Gohan.
yeah, I think it would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Whereas there's been nothing to this kid is just he's had no training whatsoever because I don't think he would have. I think he
No.
would have had like light. I think he would have been training with Piccolo. I think.
Yeah, but them two together probably wouldn't have went in the time chamber because they only had time for two people to go. Well, two sets of people to go in, which is
Oh, they would
why.
have just been basic training, but they still would have been doing something.
Yeah.
But he still would have been like wearing a gi, and he would have been doing very basic. That's why he would have been scared because he wouldn't be ready to fight.
Mm,
Like he would have been like if Cell Junior went up against him, he would have been tore apart,
yeah.
or he would have been hurt. So he'd
Mm,
be standing there scared, battered, and everything like that. Like, and yeah, so he just watches innocence. He just watches innocence die again,
mm,
basically.
yeah.
I think that would be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I think it will remind him of Kid Trunks getting killed.
Oh, yeah. Another one, potentially, yeah. That could have been a trigger,
Because
especially if they do
they're going
some
to be the
sort of.
same age, roughly, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think Trunks is slightly older in this
Yeah, but
case,
I'm
but
roughly the same age.
yeah. Mhm.
So
Yeah, that could work. So let's say everything did play out. Future Gohan does kill Cell instead, and then goes back to the future. There's a lot of changes that happen because of this. So, first thing, no Saiyaman, probably. I highly
yeah,
doubt it. Because, Kid Gohan, if he's brought back to life, which he probably would have been, then, why would he be doing any of this stuff? He wasn't the savior.
yeah,
Probably wouldn't have met Fidel. Because let's face it, Hercule would have still probably taken credit, but there wouldn't have been some kid, who took the win. It would have been this future guy who disappears, which he knows about.
actually, I don't know. Why wouldn't there have been?
What, Saiyaman or him and Vidal?
Why wouldn't there have been a Saiyaman?
Because, I just
He's
think,
still stronger than everybody else. He's still a hybrid Saiyan.
well, he would have had less training at this point. He wouldn't have had the massive power boost of Super Saiyan 2. He wouldn't have been on level with Goku or Vegeta at this point.
Then again,
The
would he
potential wouldn't
actually
have been there.
would he actually gain Super Saiyan?
Yeah, he's still got Super Saiyan.
What, did he get Super Saiyan in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber?
Uh, they
Yeah,
come
he did.
out. Yeah, that's true.
So
Did they?
he wouldn't have Super Saiyan.
Yeah,
He wouldn't even be a Super Saiyan.
yeah. There's potentially might have unlocked it during the whole Cell saga, but yeah, he might not have.
Yes, we might not even be Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
That's wild to think of that we
Mm,
have this person who's basically Beast Gohan now,
mm,
the most according to Toyama, has potential to be the most powerful um, fighter.
yeah.
Can't even turn Super Saiyan as we approach the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Mm,
As we approach the final arc of Dragon Ball Z, he's not even a Super Saiyan yet.
yeah.
That would be wild.
Mm.
Uh,
Let's face it, like if that was to happen, no one would be expecting Gohan to still be the most powerful character if he just kept training at this point.
yeah,
Like no one would be thinking that. They would just think, ah, well, this Gohan's just not very strong. He's the weak kid, the nerdy kid, and that's just how he's going to be. And people would actually accept nerdy life Gohan at that point because they'd be like, well, yeah, makes sense. Because they wouldn't have seen
yeah,
his potential properly.
yeah. They Gohan's defining moment was the Cell Saga.
Yeah.
It's what cemented him into people's favorites.
Mm,
He would not be a character favorite if it not for the Cell Saga.
mm,
It's people. A lot of people, like I'll be honest, like me, a lot of people didn't really care for him during the Saiyan Saga.
mm.
Like
Yeah.
he was
No one really cared for him in the sense. Well,
no,
before the Cell arc, no one really like. Let's face it, no one cared about him. No one wanted bull haircut Gohan to be
yeah.
like the best character in the show by that point.
Even in the Fraser, no, Fraser Saga was exactly the same. Just bald haircut. He didn't really do much.
Yeah.
Really, he was
Mm,
just kind of a whiny kid. He had a couple of moments, but nothing particularly special. He started to define himself, come
mm,
androids and come Cell,
mm,
and he really turned up. It was when he got into his teens,
mm,
um, and when he became an adult. Without that, everyone would have just seen more scared kid.
mm.
All we would want is more cool ass future Gohan to come back,
Yeah.
and we
Which
wouldn't have probably seen that until Super.
yeah, which is fine. And I think at that point, if he does come back again, because let's say everything does somewhat play out the same, apart from Gohan being weaker, but let's say he still meets Videl, he still has a family and all that stuff, everything's still kind of the same. He's just slightly weaker now. Let's say Gohan comes back again because of Zamasu, and this time he's got Bionic on because Bulma just makes him an on, because why not?
Because she will.
Um, yeah, because she's an inventor. He would have wiped out the androids. Things would have been kind of getting back to normal. There's time for Bulma to make Gohan a bionic arm. So he comes back. The threat's there, and then it's him, Vegeta, and Goku who go back to the future to take on Zamasu and Goku Black. So things would be different there again, because again it's kind of between Trunks and Vegeta, sort of, and the sort of light Rage Trunks.
Yeah,
None of that would have happened. The whole thing with Mai wouldn't have happened, or if it does, it would be Gohan and Mai,
that mean. Mm,
which would be interesting because it would be Gohan and Mai in the future, and it would be Videl and Gohan in the present.
yeah,
Yeah, so
jilted love
yeah,
it.
he gets to come back to the
I
present and
think
see what a nerdy, non-fighting version of Gohan, how he would have turned out, and he would have seen Gohan relaxing, being smart, have a family with his kids, and then he would compare that to his future where yes, he's still in a relationship, but he has no life really.
see, but I don't think he'd be with my. I think he was like Piccolo in the future. He kept himself.
Yeah,
He
I
was
guess so.
I think he would just literally live by himself. He was a hermit. He was basically a hermit.
Hmm.
So, but I think
Yeah,
I would think that would be interesting though, because he would get to come see, and he would get to see his life.
if there was no constant fighting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think would be again very interesting.
Hmm.
He would get to see what like a happy version of himself.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be good. because it would make him want to fight harder to
Yeah.
ensure that doesn't happen.
Would he be extremely disappointed that he has a kid in this version and, it's not technically his because, he has no kid in his
No,
timeline?
I think he could just be happy that he's happy. He is happy.
Mm,
um, I think he would just look at it as in he has something that in this version, what he did with Cell and everything like that
mm,
allowed for there to be a future. No, I think he would be fine with that. If it's the Gohan that like was made,
mm.
I think it could be fine. I
Yeah.
can't see him settling down in this future. It's not the same character.
No. Yeah, fair enough.
Trunks is full of hope and everything like that,
Mm.
whereas Future Gohan is just dead inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see, like, because I know that the sword was a big factor towards the end of the saga.
Mhm.
I could see this mechanical arm maybe having some sort of like cannon on the end for a giant blast instead. That type of thing. Um, we can have like a giant beam coming out of his hand or whatever instead of having a sword.
They could literally do a mock of Zamasu's own attack to kill him.
Hmm. Yeah.
Zamasu's hand attack. Turn
Yeah.
it on himself as well,
Hmm. Yeah, that could work.
which would actually be quite interesting. Basically, like using his own power against him almost.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it'd be hard. Although I think it would also be interesting if he used the spirit bomb
Ooh. Yeah.
using his own father's attack. He's seen the spirit bomb be used. Although has that version been? Yes, he would have seen it in Sin Saga,
Hmm.
so he knows what the spirit bomb is. Um, and
Or
so he
would
could
this have been the time to use the special beam cannon?
like,
Probably not. I don't think you would have had the same relationship with Piccolo in
no,
this timeline.
no, he would have died much further, much longer. He would have developed it. No, he would have because he would have developed it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, I think that he would have got all the hope and everything from seeing his other Gohan as happiness. He would have, I think so. He would have got this whole light of hope thing, the
Mm.
same as Trunks did, and I think he would have thought, seeing his father again and everything. I think he would have been like, right, okay, Spirit Bomb. I think he could have done it.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Or maybe
Yeah,
he has Trunks' sword since Trunks isn't around to get it.
yeah, maybe. So yeah, I think he could have dropped the Spirit Bomb on Zamazu. I
Mm.
don't see it being totally unreasonable when
Yeah.
in doubt, Spirit Bomb. And I
Hmm.
think it would have been a nice nod. If they
Yeah.
have to use some type of spirity thing, then I think it would have been a nice nod to see Gohan drop a spirit bomb.
Mm. I
We've
think
never
so
seen
too.
him do anything like that.
Yeah. The only disappointing moment for me is that we don't see any version of Future Trunks at this point,
Yeah.
who is one of my favorite characters, which is a shame. But
At the same
we
time, you
get
wouldn't know he existed, so
yeah,
you wouldn't know he's there to miss him.
we get a lot more Future Gohan instead. Um, I do find it really interesting that he's only got one arm. Like that's a big character thing. Like we have no characters who get injured to the point where they don't recover. Like,
Yeah.
and that is something. He's lost a limb. That doesn't. Well, I mean, it happens to Piccolo a lot, but he can grow it back, so that's fine. But no major character who can't grow back limbs has lost a limb. So it's just a big thing, a big
Yeah.
difference.
Can't think of anybody.
No, no one has. Just Piccolo, he gets unlucky. Which is a good thing that he's the one who loses arms and stuff because, no one else is growing them back.
But the thing is, I like how they incorporate it into his fighting style.
Mm,
It's like they do it quite well in the
yeah.
fight against the androids. It
Mm,
looks good.
yeah. Well,
I
actually,
very
I should admit, Tien does get an arm back. But that's because he dies and then when he comes back, he's got an arm again.
yeah,
Anyway,
but it's just kind of a random chop, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, it's but um, no, I think they. and it opens up a lot of options for choreography and stuff like that.
Mm.
Fight choreography that would look very good.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. I like his design. I think he looks great.
Mhm.
It's why I think it's why he's one of my favorite character looks, because
Yeah.
I think he just looks fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with him being replacing Future Trunks, because I didn't I'm not a fan of Z Future Trunks. Um I like I think Super salvaged him massively.
Mm.
I much prefer the Super Future Trunks.
Yeah.
I think he's less, but I think it's because I think the more I look back on Future Trunks in Z, the it's because they wasted him.
Mm, I don't
He's
know.
I think towards the end of the Cell saga, he's just a background character.
He
He's
is.
basically Tien or Yamcha by the end.
Yeah.
He's literal cannon fodder for Cell.
Mm,
That is the biggest contribution he has towards the end of the Cell saga. But
yeah.
however, then at the very very end, they bring him back in with a vengeance, and he has one of the coolest moments in the. He dropped one of the coolest moments in Z, where he blasts away 17 and 18
Mm,
with a "This is for Gohan" quote before he blows away 17. Like, that is one of the best moments in Z, in my opinion. Like, but the thing is, like, they don't really know what they can't decide whether or not they want to use him properly in Z,
mm,
and I think that's a bit of a shame, because they waste him a lot in the saga, and I think that's why I'm not massively keen on him.
yeah.
Um, but I mean
The
that's my opinion. I know you love him, but I mean that's just my opinion. On they keep dropping him in. Like, he had this really interesting entrance, and then
mm.
they just make him a background character, and then they bring him back in, and they just mm,
Yeah, it's fine in a way because Future Trunks doesn't get the final kill in the Cell Saga, which means that Gohan still gets the shine. Whereas in this one, since Future Gohan would be getting the kill, uh, and it weakens current Gohan, and also going forward, think of the Tournament of Power, for example. Gohan wouldn't be able to do much. Like, he is strong.
superhero exist.
Yes, well, a superhero might exist, but he wouldn't have got the beast form, and he definitely wouldn't have been able to take on the Kamas at all. But the Tournament of Power is the main thing. Like, he was team captain because everyone knows how strong he can be. Whereas this time, people don't really know his strength level. Maybe he's still only reached Super Saiyan 1. You know, maybe during the Buu arc, he might have unleashed Ultimate somehow, kind of, if he trained a little bit, but he wouldn't be on the
It would have
same
been
level.
such an ass pull transformation. People
Yeah,
would have just been very disappointed to
yeah,
go from Bet not really having Super Saiyan to go into Ultimate or
yeah.
whatever, or Mystic. It's
Mm,
just like it would have been ridiculous.
yeah. I
Like,
mean,
to go the Mystic, it's Mist. Was it Mystic?
yeah.
And yeah, it's like going for that far.
Mm.
That would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, Gohan isn't a major factor in the Buu arc, I guess, as much.
But
But
it's more the fact that's part of his power
yeah,
scale.
mm,
That's the important part. Is we have to understand his power. Like, a big part of him through that is not his fighting of Boo,
mm,
it's his power climb. So
yeah,
that when he does reach it later in Super, he's not just gone from Super Saiyan 2 to get an ultimate. There
mm,
has been something in between,
yeah,
and that wouldn't probably be there,
yeah.
um, or it wouldn't
So
make sense.
yeah, in the Tournament of Power, he could have still been on the team, and there's a good chance they still might have made him team captain just for pure strategic methods. Like, because this version of Gohan would have been a lot weaker, he would have been studying a lot more, and people would have accepted that. He could have been more of a strategist to be on the team since he is still, even if he hasn't trained as much, he's like one of the only options available to have. So he would have came along, but he wouldn't have been doing anywhere near as good. So
Yeah,
yeah, big changes there.
no, I think it would. I think story wise, Trunks was the better idea.
Hmm.
Interesting, where there would have been interesting moments for pacing and such, and what makes sense for what we've got now.
Hmm.
Trunks was probably the better option.
Yeah, probably. But yeah. Anyway, we've talked about this long enough.
Yes.
So Future Gohan would have been cool, and it would have been nice to see more of him. But overall, for the story's sake, I think it makes sense it was Trunks.
Great.
Um, but yeah, let's move on now to the Hall of Fame.
Let's go.